Hello, friends. I'm Nicole Song, and this is the School of Self Worth. Welcome back. I am so excited to talk to you about today's topic, which is all about uncovering your full potential. There are three main blocks that I see for Asian American women that keeps them from stepping into their potential. So today we get to go really deep on this one. You do not want to miss all the richness that is ahead. And before we get started, if you're an Asian American corporate leader who wants to permanently reverse cultural conditioning and step into your full power and potential, DM me visible on Instagram at Nicole Song. I've got something over there for you. All right, friends, let's dig into this episode. One of the things I've been noticing for is how many Asian American women feel like they are not living up to their full potential. And I'm always a little bit shocked because these women are so smart, they're so capable, they're often at the top of their careers, they're often doing so many things. Like, I can't even believe it, between juggling families and their jobs and volunteering and doing side hustles, like really women who are so incredible. And yet they say that they really don't feel like they're living up into their potential. And so whenever an Asian American woman comes to me and says that, I instantly know there are a few key blocks at play here. And these women keep experiencing these blocks over and over again. It keeps going on repeat, like a little record scratch. It's like, over and over again. And there is a lesson, and yet they're not totally sure what that is. And that's because it's a blind spot, which of course means you cannot see what's going on. And so this is why I love to have these conversations, because the truth is you can't see it, but often somebody else can. And they can not only see the problem for you and pretty quickly, but since you're in that pattern and you're in that cycle that's been repeating itself your entire life, you might not even think that it's something that can change. You might actually think this is part of who you are and you're stuck with it forever. So, we are here today to talk about those patterns and those cycles because it is possible to break these patterns. I have broken so many patterns with clients, things that come that are just super old, they've been doing forever, and they don't even realize they're doing it. And then once they break through, they feel so free on the other side. And you might be tempted to kind of get deep on this and say, okay, Nicole, what causes these cycles to start? Why do they take so long to overcome? And we're going to get into some of that today. And the truth is, you can actually break patterns and cycles pretty quickly. You can do it with awareness, you can do it with different types of tools that I work on with people inside your clear calling, but it is really possible to break the cycles. Like, you don't have to be stuck with them forever. And so I hope that if you're listening here today, it's because you're interested in what it really would take for you to break those blocks and to start getting the support that would help you. I will say this, these blocks took a lifetime to build up. They are quick to break, but what happens for all of us is we can tend to ping pong back even after we break it. Like, you break it once and then you do it again. And that's where accountability and support make a really big difference. Having somebody notice when you go back into that old pattern so that you can course correct again really quickly. And again, that's what we do inside your clear calling. So it's cool though. It's exciting because welcome to the journey of seeing your own power and your worth and your value. So the first block that I see time and again, this one is so common. I had it for a very long time. And that this is the one where you feel like you are constantly failing. That this is the kind of feeling where whenever you're trying to get somewhere and you feel like you one step forward, two steps back, one step forward, two steps back. And even when you do finally start to reach that goal, you hit that goal and then you feel like the goalpost has moved before you've even gotten there. And this can happen. I remember when I was putting my first books out, like, I felt like the goal was the book, but then once the books came out, all of a sudden now the goal was like, how many books are you selling? And then once the books were selling, it's like, okay, how many places are they being distributed? Okay, now can you help drive those sales even more? Like, it felt like this nonstop never ending hamster wheel of all these things I had to do around the book. And I was like, I just wanted to write a book. And so I had to really look for myself at this feeling like I was failing, because wasn't the goal to write a book? And if you're a budding author out there, you might be like, I thought the goal is to write the book. There's so many other pieces for us always to explore in any big goal that we're going after. But this is such a common mindset for achievers. And I also place myself into that category. Let's keep going to the next thing that we need to do instead of recognizing and celebrating where you are. And that is missing for so many Asian American women. Like, celebration is not part of how you live your life. And first of all, you're missing out because celebration is so fun. It is also something that you have to learn and you have to practice. It's like so many of the things that we're working on, it's a muscle that you have to develop, and you have to do it consistently and with accountability and support. Because I promise you, without those things, you're not going to do it. Like, I could tell you till I'm blue in the face about this on the podcast, but really it requires a lot of accountability for us to start to step into celebration in a totally different way. But let's be real here, because the way you grew up likely played into the reason you don't celebrate. Your parents, whether they celebrated, my parents never celebrated anything, but they praised you, or at least acknowledged, or perhaps didn't cut you down for accomplishments, like the grades that you got. Like, not getting yelled at for grades may have been the standard. That they still expected an A+ every time. It might have been because of the awards that you won and you finally got like maybe a nod of approval. It could have been what seat you had in the orchestra or the band, or if you made the varsity sports teams. All of those things were really what they were looking to see and like as to define as success. And then after that, it was about whether you got into an Ivy League school or the grades that you got to get there. And then once you were in school, it was still about your GPA. And then after that, the proof was, what kind of job did you get? How prestigious was it? How much did it pay? And if all of this is like so familiar, right? This is the hamster wheel of achievement. This is when you're like, no matter what I do, the goalpost keeps moving because I kept doing all the things I was supposed to do. And then there was something else I needed to do. And then after you got your job, it was probably about meeting the right person that your family approved of and having a kid and having a house and having a nice car. And now maybe you get into supporting your parents in their old age, and on and on and on. So basically, this goalpost, there's just no goalpost that you could ever hit. It's just been moving your entire life. And you thought that trying for those goalposts is what made you successful. And I'm here to tell you, all it did was turn your identity into a person who's an achiever, a high achiever, an achiever, somebody who just always is in pursuit of the next thing and always giving it your all. And your achievements were supposed to mean that you made it. So here's one really simple test to see if this is true for you. Is your job your identity? Another way to look at it is, if you took your job away, would you have a sense of purpose and fulfillment and joy in your life? And if your answer is no, then very probably your job is your identity. And that's why the reason you're not reaching your full potential is because you have let your full potential be bound to one particular thing. And if you are not feeling successful in your job, you will never feel successful in your life. Can you see how slippery this is? We really have to look at, what are we defining for ourselves? What are we doing for ourselves around identity, and to actually shift ourselves and move ourselves into like, wow, purpose and alignment and your potential are so much bigger than the things that you're achieving. And this is probably part of the reason why you always feel like the goalpost is moving. And the sooner you start to shift your identity from somebody who has to achieve all the time and whose identity is tied to your job, and you start to separate your identity and your self-worth from this achiever side, that's when you can start to make a shift. And this is a lot of inner attention. This is a lot of awareness. And it's the most critical one. It really is. It's the most critical one to really figure out. And once you've started working on this identity piece, the next thing comes up, and this is the second biggest block. And this is where you don't know how to say no. I mean, it's a simple boundary, but it is one that I find Asian American women really struggle with. So if your identity is wrapped up in work, you're probably not going to say no to work. Can you see the connection here? Like you tell yourself you're just trying to be collaborative, you're trying to be in partnership with people at work, you want to support others, you want to support your team, and you are constantly sacrificing yourself. Or worse, maybe you are setting some baby boundaries, but you feel guilty for saying no. And so even if you say no, you're always thinking about the boundary that you set and you are spiraling into guilt for even setting a boundary. And that guilt is crashing your brain and keeping you from stepping into your actual potential of who you are because you're spending so much time being worried about saying no, of what people will think of you if it's actually going to harm your leadership. When the truth is that the more clarity you have around boundaries, the more effective you are as a leader. You are not trying to solve everybody's problems all the time. You are simply there for the biggest problems for them to resolve. And then you're allowing them the independence to figure it out for themselves. And this is so true because also clear boundaries means you value yourself. And the more you value yourself, the more the leadership will value you as well. And the more you can start to show people and teach them how to treat you. Valuing yourself is the biggest priority. And I don't mean valuing like what you're doing at work because that's still identity stuff. I mean valuing who you are, that you have something to say, that when you speak, it's interesting. You're not doubting yourself, you're not second guessing, you're not saying, like you are in such confidence that your unique qualities and abilities are a contribution. And it doesn't matter what environment you're in, that is true all the time. And once you start to do this, that's when people who are really wanting the visibility, being seen and recognized at work, that's when that comes to play because you are so clearly in your power and your full potential. So, can you start to see that your full potential is not actually connected to what kind of job you have? It is more about who you are being, the way you show up, and the energy and action you put towards being your authentic self everywhere you are. And now this brings me to my third biggest block. And this one is believing that you can delay your full potential to another time. You're like, 2026, that'll be a good time to work it out. I'm curious if you said that in 2024 for 2025 or 23 for 24. Like, how many times have you said to yourself, I can figure that out later? Because I will tell you the truth. There is no time except right now to really look at this. Your worth and your highest self is actually the most important thing that you can look at. It is more important than getting dinner on the table or looking at the latest spreadsheet from work. I'm serious. This is really true. It's the most urgent thing I can think of on the planet because this is where you start to step into ownership of who you are and you start to make choices and decisions that you're not going to sit there at the mercy of what everybody else thinks and how they value you and whatever is going on. And I can think of so many examples in my life where this is true, where people would, poo poo me or naysay me and say, nope, that doesn't matter. That's never going to happen. And, people know better generally than that now to do that with me, but that happened for sure. Like, I remember when I was getting divorced and I knew that I wanted to meet somebody who would want to get married and have a child. And I was doing this when I was 42. And I was thinking, like, so many people think that's kind of like a crazy goal. And I was really clear about this. And I was part of it is because I knew my potential. I knew my power. I knew that it was possible. So I didn't let other people's ideas about this get in the way. And that's how I arrived in the life that I'm in right now. And so when you are delaying it, you're actually delaying the gift of your own life, of creating your life, of being in the life that feels so fulfilling, so impactful, and so powerful. And it is literally the most important thing I feel for any of you who are listening to really start to dig into and to understand. Because if you don't do it, if you give your potential away, if you give and outsource your self worth to your job, to other people's opinions of you, to like not setting boundaries, the people you suffer. First of all, you're going to suffer. And then also the people you love are going to suffer, people around you. And then this is you. This is what it turns into. You don't value yourself. You work crazy hours. You spend all your time on your phone. You're teaching your kids not to value themselves. You're not present with your children. When you're at work, you're always thinking about all the other things you have to do. When you're with your kids or your family or people you love, you're always thinking about your job. And so then now you're in this cycle where you're not really practicing, really loving yourself and being present in your life. And it sends a message to others that they can also put it off. And so let's stop doing that. Stop doing that and start to come into the idea that you can actually do it right now. And the way to do it right now is to start looking at emotional mastery, to take down your reactivity, to give up this identity of achiever and to come into the identity of who you truly are, and to start to say no and to start to do things that support you to be in your life present and clear as you are. There is only ever this moment. And my clients know this, and I say it to them all the time. There is only ever this moment. The idea that we can put things off, that's just future thinking, and it's not true. We only really have where we are right now. So, can we be in the practice of that immediately? And then by not delaying the things that we know matter in our lives. Change is only ever possible, and choice is only ever possible to change your life in the present. The present moment is the most powerful one you will ever have. So if you're like, okay, I want to do this, it's a little bit scary because, by the way, change is scary to our brains. We just have to be like, okay, I'm coming back to the present moment. I'm listening. I'm learning to tune in to the voice that is an internal voice versus that external, busy, loud, internet based voice. But I'm actually going to listen to the voice that matters. And if that voice is talking to you right now and says, you got to find out more about this, DM me Visible on Instagram. We've got something over there for you. And then that will just help you take those first steps to really stepping into your potential, stepping into your power, owning your authentic voice in a totally different way. Okay, friends, thank you so much. I am so thrilled to have you here, and I can't wait to see you in the next episode.